participated in Urban Bioblitz in Indianapolis, and while it sounds like one of those races that involve trudging through muddy obstacle courses and zip lines, it's actually a 24-hour-long science experiment. Well, it did rain a lot, so there was some mud, but no zip lines. Now, a bioblitz is an intensive inventory of all the plants and animals that live in a particular place, usually a park or nature preserve. This particular event focused on parks in downtown Indianapolis in an effort to find out what sort of plants and animals might be living in that urban setting versus a more traditional natural setting. I wanted to know what kind of effect people might be having on this type of ecosystem. And as an archaeologist, considering that these parks have been there for a long time, I wanted to know what type of historic or archaeological resources might be present in those parks. The Indianapolis Parks and Boulevard System was designed in the first part of the 20th century by George Kessler. The system contains numerous parks, but we decided to focus our efforts on one park in particular, Garfield Park. It's the oldest park in the city, established in the late 19th century. Because of this, we knew many historic features would be well documented, but we wanted to take a little bit of a different look. For instance, what is the current condition of some of these resources? Do they play a role in the ecosystem of the park, or vice versa? And we also wanted to know, were there other places in the park with historic or cultural meaning that perhaps were less well known? We arrived in the morning to find rainy weather, which dismayed some of the biologists, but fortunately for us, had less impact on the types of things we were interested in. We met a member of the Friends of Garfield Park, John Hornberger. John had lived in the neighborhood around the park for most of his life, and he was gracious enough to show us some of his favorite historic places in the park. The highlights included the elaborately designed sunken gardens, the Garfield Art Center, the Pagoda Shelter House, the McAllister Center for the Performing Arts, and several historic bridges, including this one, locally known as the Tickle Me Tell Me Bridge for the roller coaster-like feeling it produces when driving over it. Less obvious features included these pillars and pavilion. They marked the former end of the line of the streetcar that used to bring people to the park from downtown. We also saw many memorials, from the prominent marker to Confederate prisoners of war, to the statue of General Henry W. Lawton, notable for his role in the capture of the Apache warrior Geronimo. But the most notable memorial was the Grove of Remembrance. Tucked away in the northwest corner of the park, the grove was planted by the American War Mothers, with individual trees representing the sons who died in World War I. The grove is still more or less intact, with several large trees still standing. Plaques listing the names of the individual war mothers, as well as the founder of the group, are present, but the markers of the individual soldiers' names are gone. The Memorial Grove appears to be one of the least visited areas of the park, perhaps due to the lack of sidewalks and crosswalks connecting the area to the rest of the park. Even John, our guide and long-term resident, had rarely visited the area. Now, we did spot a geocache at the base of one of the trees, which likely reflects the low level of activity in the area. Now, one of my favorite places in the park turned out to be this lawn surrounding this broken marker to the former mayor of Indianapolis. While it's one of the least remarkable places in the park, with a marker that's literally falling down, it's a perfect example of how a place can be meaningful despite its appearance. You see, the marker is commemorating Mayor Feeney's Yard Parks program, a yard beautification program dating to the 1950s. And it has particular meaning to our friend John. Let's let him hear him tell us about it.
And they had planted here a garden. I remember it being here, it was fenced in, little thing. And this would be a perfect, this is what people should imitate. It was called the Yard Parks. And you could sign up every year that, you would participate, take a picture in your yard or something. Well, I got an award for that in 1959 when I was in grade school. I still have it. I found it the other day. I said, I was part of the Yard Parks.
We started our day as a part of Search for Life in the Park, with our focus on the role people have had in shaping the landscape. Now, many of these places have evolved over time, may have undergone repairs or modified their use, but generally they tend to retain their historic character. We saw signs of lives lived and lost, of the prominent and the personal. We came searching for signs of life, and we found it. To learn more about the Urban Bioblitz, including some more information about all the plants and animals we saw, check out the link to the video in the description below. To learn more about Orbis, check out our website at orbisec.com. We're also on Facebook and Instagram at Orbis Environmental. And be sure to click subscribe. Thanks.